Hello! Today I would like to share with you guys Bloon, a powerful real-time parsing and plotting utility for the Mac. Bloon is capable of parsing a huge number of data formats, but today we're going to focus on a fairly simple one, which is just this ASCII formatted data file that contains 9 columns starting with a pound sign, and each number is separated by a comma. Okay, first step is to create a new configuration file. So we're going to do that by going File and New. The configuration file is divided into two halves. The first half configures the parser, and the second half configures the grapher. We're going to start by configuring the parser. To configure the parser, we're going to give it a name, and we're going to choose where it saves its output files. So we're going to say the desktop. And then the next step is to choose the data source. Bloon comes with 3 data sources. First is a file, so Bloon can parse from a file directly. It can also parse from a serial port. And lastly, it can parse from a named Unix pipe. That allows you to get data off the network or pretty much from any other data source that you can think of. So we've selected our data file. Next, we're going to define some sentences. In this case, there's only one sentence, and that sentence is going to describe the pound sign and then the ASCII doubles that come after it. So this is our sentence. It's going to be made up of tokens. There's a bunch of different types of tokens here, but we're just going to focus on a few of them right now. So the first one is a constant character, which represents just a single constant character. So the first thing in our sentence is this pound sign. After that, we're going to have an ASCII double. And that ASCII double, we're going to call it X. Following the ASCII double is another constant character, which is going to be a comma. And after that, there's another ASCII double. We have a ton more ASCII doubles. I think there are 7 more. We're going to call this one N1. But instead of going through that whole process 7 more times, we can just copy that and paste it 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we can relabel these N1, N2, N3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. At this point, it's a good idea to save the configuration file so that it's easy to come back to later. The next step would be to configure the grapher. So the first step to configure the graph is to create graph windows. Bloon supports as many windows as you want, but in this case we're only going to have one window. We'll call it window. Inside the window you can have multiple graphs. So to create multiple graphs, you click this plus button down in the bottom left, and then you can choose how many rows and columns you want. And if you create more graphs, you can move them around and choose how wide they are, and create any layout that you really want. In this case, we're only going to have one, though. So we're going to delete these other 2 and change ourselves back to 1 row and 1 column. We'll call this graph. Graphs contain plots, and each plot is a single series of data. So in this case, we're going to plot all 8 data values from our file versus the first column, which is X. So to do that, we need to choose variable here. Variable means that Bloon will plot 2 different data columns against each other, as opposed to time to index, which will either plot values against the index into the file or the current time on the computer. So to do this, we're going to create a new plot. We'll call this one N1. The X variable, if we start typing the name of our parser, it'll autocomplete, and we want it to be X. And then Y variable is going to be the same thing, except it's going to be N1. So this will plot X versus N1. We're going to copy this and paste it 8 more times, or 8 total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to rename all the other ones 2 through 8. Next, just to make it look a little better, we're going to set each plot to have a different color. So take just a moment. And with that, we're done and we're ready to see what our data looks like. So we're going to finally go and save our configuration one last time, and then we're going to down here and we're going to run. So this will start the entire process, open up a graph, and start plotting. So while it's plotting, you can see we can smoothly zoom in on the graph, see what's going on. If you right click on the graph, it shows us the exact values for each of the points closest to the cursor, so we can zoom all the way in and really look and see what's going on right at this point. You can see that we've got some oscillations at the sharp boundary here. You can zoom back out. Hitting spacebar will do an auto scale, and that's it. We're done. So Bloon's just plotted 5 million data points. It's a little slow right now because of the screencasting software, but usually this would be perfectly smooth. But that's it. Thanks for watching this little screencast about Bloon. I hope that you use the software for some pretty cool stuff. Thanks for listening.